What's up, everybody? Good morning. Tuesday, July 27th. Um, Hopefully, we'll continue, with some green today. We did see in CLOV 15-cent gain yesterday, moving in the right direction. That was about basically 2% gain on the day. GameStop, we saw also kind of like a 2% gain somewhere in there around 358. Um, in AMC, although I don't have a big position in it, I did buy some calls last week just to kind of play on maybe this momentum. But that was kind of the big gainer in the meme stocks yesterday, around 9%, gain of about $3. So, Clove today, volume is pretty low. I mean, I think we're at what, almost 170,000, which seems lower than average. We kind of seen some weird movements this morning. Um, where we at? Right before the close yesterday, the stock shot up to about 825, close of after hours. And then this morning we saw it drop all the way down. I mean, it's kind of been back and forth, but dropped down to 802, found some support, and now we're back above VWAP. But not a lot of volume this morning. Um, I think it could be good. We talked about this before on here. When volume starts drying up, typically when buying pressure actually does start to come in, we could see some really strong movements. And if we look at like the daily chart on Clove, going back to you know before the last run up, you kind of look at volume, and I mean volume for Clove used to be somewhere in like, we're looking at here 9, 13, 12, 19, 10, 8. So it was kind of in like this maybe 8 to 15 million range. This is going back now to like March and April. And then, so when you do end up with a bigger volume day like 75 million, we saw a huge price jump from 7 to 9, then back down to like these lower volume days, and then all of a sudden you get 250 million and we see a price jump from 7 to 10. Same thing kind of happened in here in May. We were looking at volume trying up to like the 9 million, 7 million, 5 million in there, and then when volume picked up, we saw some really nice moves. I mean, running all the way up to 28. It does seem like now, I mean, I've heard people say like volume is a lot lower in Clove, but if you look at these days we were looking at back here, 5 million to 15 million, anywhere in there. Now we're hitting days of like 35, 30, 28, 49. So our average volume is a little bit higher, but still, hitting 19 million yesterday. If all of a sudden we see a day come in with 75 million in volume, 80 million in volume, I think that'll, get us right back up in here. We're trading below both moving averages, the 50 and 200, but it does look like the 50 um, is getting pretty close to crossing over, which would be kind of a bullish signal to likely bring in more swing traders and investors. The MACD starting to curl up. I'm looking at this here now where it's starting to get smaller and smaller up here. At some point, this MACD should cross over. Our RSI is still pretty low though too. We're at 38, 39. So I think the stock's ready to make a move in the other direction. We saw some green days, three green days yesterday or last week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, followed by two red. And we did go green yesterday. So hopefully we'll keep continuing this trend upwards in the right direction, and reverse this downward trend that we've been in since the run up of June. We did see some options volume come in on Clove yesterday. Actually, you know what? Before I even get into Clove, I'm gonna go around and look at some of these other stocks, just because I know some people may not be in here yet and may be interested in hearing more so the take on Clove. So let's see here. So Christina, good morning. Um, Michael, good morning. Thank you for joining. JF, SRT, Lisa's in the house. Good morning. Ego, nice to see you. Justin says, is anyone worried about the Fed's meeting this week? Worried this will tank the market and hurt our Clove? No. Well, another question was for everybody, and I'd love to hear other people's responses in the chats too. But for me, at least, I feel like you know, the the Fed in general has been trying to do whatever they can to keep the market from going down, right? I mean, they're trying to keep this market pumping and pushing in the right direction, and they're going to continue to do so. And some of the more recent rule changes that the SEC has made, and the DTCC and their subsidiary of the NSCC, it just seems like a lot of it is being put there to prevent a market wide sell off. And then also being in that kind of weird area where Clove's at of being a highly shorted stock. I think, and I've explained this a couple times, at least this is my theory, is that even if the market does go down, I think we'll see a reverse effect in shorted stocks, right? Because as the market goes down, anyone who's short the stock and maybe over leveraged in other long positions is going to have to start unwinding their positions. And that would, in the effect of CLOV, mean covering shares. So that's my take, at least. That's what I'm expecting. Jason, good morning. Scotty's in the house. Good morning. SMJ, Skip. Got Joseph in the house. Says got my coffee. Let her rip, coach. Never thought this would be my morning routine. Now, yeah, me neither. I really didn't. But I'm really loving this. I know I've talked about before that school's going to be starting up here in about 2 weeks, and I'm going to be going back to work. But I think I'm going to be able to still continue to kind of get this done. I just got to get up a little bit earlier, kind of have everything set and ready to go. That way, as soon as I'm done with the stream, I can head to work. But yeah, I'm enjoying this too. John in the house. Good morning, Michael. Um, yeah, and that's a good point too. Michael says nothing the Fed does has had any effect on meme stocks. Yeah, so I mean, and Clove kind of does. I don't consider Clove to be a meme in the regards that, I mean, this stock has so much long term potential and growth potential, but it is a meme stock. I mean, it is. Even if we pull up Ape Wisdom right now and kind of look at, what are the most talked about stocks right now on Reddit in the past 24 hours, and I don't think Clove's been out of the top 10 in a long time. So, absolutely a meme stock in regards to kind of what the definition or loose definition is. I mean, it's a definitely a popular stock that has the ability to increase in volume kind of at any moment, if as it starts to move up the trending tickers on whether it be Twitter, Reddit, Wall Street Bets, whatever it may be. Um, Okay, yeah, Justin, I get it. Like, worry, we will always drop 75 cents when they start talking, usually bounces back. Yeah, no, I get that part of it for sure. The one thing I will say, like, if we pull up the daily chart, I mean, we've held some pretty consistent, every time we've dropped down into the $7 range recently, which has been what I think maybe like 4 out of the last like 10 days, we've dropped below 8, including pre market this morning. And, every time we get down there, we see the buying pressure bring it back up. So I really feel like we have support at $8. Um, so I mean, and we'll have to obviously see how this plays out. I mean, I know a couple weeks ago I was saying the same thing, kind of when we were trading in this like $12 range, and we fell below that support and fell below the moving averages. I really think us getting above this $10 mark and kind of moving upwards this way will really be strong for the stock and maybe let us find some new support levels. Um, so real quick, Chef Daddy, what's up? Nice to see you in here. So I just want to move through some of these other stocks that I'm in, that aren't necessarily moving right now, but ones that I'm more long term and watching. AVXL is one that I think has huge potential down the road, with what they're doing with basically trying to find cures for dementia, Alzheimer's, Tourette's, some of that stuff, and they're trying to do it in pill form, which I think would be a lot easier. Not a lot of news. We haven't seen much coming out of them in a while. It is getting close now to the 50-day moving average, and even though it's not touching it, this could be a nice little bounce off, and maybe we'll start moving back in the right direction. A lot of this big run up here came on great news. I think with their phase 2 trial, And, I consider this kind of maybe be some consolidation before the next run. So that's what I'm looking for in AVXL. BNGO is the other one that I'm kind of more long term on, and it did fall below the 50-day moving average after crossing up. I thought we were going to see some nice bullish movement in June when we got above this, and then it crossed back down. But it has been holding the 200-day. It's been kind of bouncing off this. So at some point, if we could make this move above, get back into the $7 range, I would imagine that we'd start to see some movement here. Also, I got to thank Tar Heel. If you're out there watching, thank you for showing me how to get these moving averages up, because this is something that in my TD Ameritrade, my Thinkorswim, that I would always kind of be able to pull up, and now I know how to do this in Webull. So I'm really excited about that. So that's BNGO. There was also some news this morning on BNGO, but I know I probably sound like a broken record. I'm always talking about it. That seems like almost every day or every other day, they're always releasing something. So, basically, reported number of presentations on optical genome mapping between August 1st and 4th. So that they'll be going around speaking, during that time frame. And who knows, maybe we'll get some good news and some good stuff to kind of give us a catalyst to move this stock upwards. GameStop, like I said, did see a green day yesterday, down a little bit in pre-market right now. Volume yesterday, I think, was the lowest in almost 2 years. So, and somebody actually posted on Super Stonks subreddit. Volume usually gets reported differently on all the different apps and stuff, but it was pretty funny on the Yahoo Finance volume reported for yesterday was actually 1,234,567. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not that that means anything, but kind of crazy. But anyways, we are kind of trending upwards. It looks like, over the last, what did we touch down here? Like 156, nowhere near when it was up here at 350. But this is kind of, and this applies to CLOV too, volume drying up, you get some buying pressure. All of a sudden you could see this thing move and just really take off and run. I don't think GameStop right now has anywhere near the options kind of play that CLOV has, where I think the options chain for CLOV can really make this thing kickstart this thing too, and we'll go over that in a second as well in regards to CLOV. The only other play that I'm in right now, and I know some of you guys can care less what plays I'm in, but DraftKings, is one that I kind of got into over here, and I'm actually, if you're interested in it, after we get done today, I got up early today and kind of really, I'm going to make a video on DraftKings and kind of explain some of this stuff. But, I got in down here, and it does look like it's finally broke through this downward trend up here. The last 2 days we've been trading above this trend line, and it's basically been in a downward trend since almost, what are we looking at, back to March, and it finally broke through there. Anyone who's familiar with CLOV knows who Hindenburg is. So it looked like DraftKings back in May was ready to kind of break through this trend line, and right when it got up here, somewhere around here, this drop was attributed to a bogus Hindenburg report that the company came out the next day and refuted. And then so it kind of started trending back upwards. We do see kind of like this W shape here, where even though it's not like a double bottom, we have the first half of the W is, basically at 39, $40, and now it came back down and it looks to be reversing, and with a higher W on the right side. So bullish signal here, bullish that we broke out of the downward trend. It does look like the MACD crossed over about 3 days ago, right around the same time that it busted through this downward trend, and RSI is now trading above 50. So these are all bullish signals. The only one that I would say is probably left is to see this 50-day moving average cross above the 200. And I think if we continue upwards, we might see that soon. The only negative thing that I've seen with DraftKings in recent days is basically one, you kind of have this BS lawsuit that's going against it that's based on the Hindenburg report. Again, anyone who's been looking at CLOV is kind of familiar with that kind of stuff. And two, there was some insider selling that was just reported on Friday. But, and this is all something that I'm going to go over in my video later on today. But basically, if you look at the insider selling, you're talking about guys who own 2 million, 3 million shares and sold like 100,000. So like less than 1 to 2%, maybe 5% of their total holdings. That could be for tax purposes. Maybe they want to take out a little bit of cash. I mean, you can't blame someone for selling 2 to 3%. That doesn't show that they have a lack of faith in the stock. That's more just taking profits in my opinion. So, anyways, that's something that I just realized this is off here. There we go. That's something I'll be covering later on today. I'm going to put a video out on that. Getting to Clove, though, let me go back here and just see where we're at with Clove. Still down about 7 cents in pre-market. AMC, at least positive, not by much. 5 cents is nothing. That's, basically trading flat. Same thing with GameStop. So be interesting to see how everything plays out today. I'm hoping we'll kind of see some bounce back, continued movement in the green direction. Let's see. Sorry, I'm getting behind in the chat. Let me get back over here. Let's see. All right, co-creators in the house. Good morning, co-creator. Ego says I buy every dip below 8. At that level, it's a no-brainer. Yeah, I agree with that 100% too. I mean, getting down here right now where we're trading at. I mean, we've talked so many times on this channel about the current price targets for Clove and I mean where this stock should be trading at without all this short interest and it's really hard to trust analyst ratings on Clove because the analysts that have been putting out information are heavily invested in conflicting stocks like Humana and things like that. So, analyst ratings right now in Clover projecting it to be 9 to 10. We've gone over in the past kind of some articles that have been posted on the subreddit and DD of basically kind of putting this thing in like a $20 to $30 price range, and that's just based off similar companies that are trading at much higher valuations that IPO'd around the same time and everything else that are into the same MA plans and DC plans. So being able to get into this at 8, even on the low end, saying this stock should be trading somewhere between around 20 is still double, almost 2.5 times what it's trading at. So I mean, $8, screw a squeeze. You can get in right now and just be part of a stock that should double or triple from where it's at right now. And then the hyper growth potential of this stock with, the Clover Assistant and the AI side of it and how that could be a game changer. I mean, man, and then the squeeze potential. So yeah, I mean, I think getting in at $8, right around this range is like Ego says, kind of a no brainer. Louis in the house. What's up, Louis? Let's see. Tim says hedge funds have so many tools to suppress share prices. Maybe they already know how to deal with situations like GME. Yes and no. Like I really feel like they can only kick the can so far, right? And if we go back and even just look at like a GameStop, and it could be, and this is why I kind of say like patience is key, even with Clove. If you look at the reported short interest, even on Clove right now, it's down to like what I think 24% or something. We'll pull that up in a second, but the short interest of what's being reported is decreasing, and that's the same type of stuff we saw in GameStop. And you see these pops, where all of a sudden now they get to a point where they have to deliver on those failed to delivers. They have to come up with the shares, and now all of a sudden, when this buying pressure comes in low volume situations, you see these spikes, and then they play the game and they kick the can down the road and keep going. And then all of a sudden they have to deliver these shares, and you have to see buybacks coming in, and you see these spikes, And in the case of GameStop, it just seems like this big bull pattern that's forming where, I mean, I would expect another spike, and they're going to keep at some point they're going to run out of time. I mean, they can only kick the can down the road so far. And now in the sense of Clove, um, like I said, we also have the options chain. And again, I'm not advocating anyone to go in and play options, but what I'm saying is, um, here, and I'll even pull this up. Let me see. So I just started using this TRADYTICS software recently that really puts things into perspective in regards to, and I keep bringing this up, but this is something that Clove has here that a lot of these other stocks don't. And this is basically concentration throughout the option chain for almost every strike, and where calls outweigh puts. And it really gives us the potential for a gamma squeeze to kick off at any given moment. Where like in other stocks, you might have to wait for that option chain to build up. In a situation like Cloves, if it didn't happen last week, it could happen this week. It could happen next week at any moment. I mean, most of the concentration is built up around August 20th, but it continues throughout the entire chain and the weeklies and everything else. And so, as we start to cross 10, 12, 10, 11, 12, maybe even 13, that's going to push us past 15. And right now, the $15 strike has 74,000 calls versus 9,000 puts. So difference of almost 6 million shares. And, the $10 strike is 73 versus 29. So a difference of 4 million shares. I mean, I don't want to go through all of these and keep going, every day, and this isn't even updated to consider yesterday's volume. So, there's huge potential here that at any moment all we need is a little bit of volume, maybe a little bit of covering failure to delivers, maybe a short needing to get out of their position. And any sort of buying pressure is going to just make this stock absolutely skyrocket, not only on the short interest side, but also on the buildup that we have in the options chain. Um, and yeah, the market makers do win most of the time. Week after week, they're able to suppress the price to keep that gamma squeeze from happening, but they don't win all the time, and that's when we see these big runs. Yesterday, there was a lot of action in the option chain. I think this is yesterday's data still. Before I hit refresh, I want to just go over this, but we saw some really large orders. Some at the $5 strike for September. Some of the other bigger ones, $15 strike for January, $11 strike for February. So, I mean, it's not like people are coming in and loading up this option chain for this week. We're seeing big volume orders coming in, loading it up for like basically the rest of the year. And that's where I'm getting at, that at any time we can kind of see this thing explode. So, let's see here. Let me get that back out of here. Co-creator saying no sound. Is my I hope you don't mean you can't hear me. I've been talking for hella long. Uh oh, okay. Jason said it's on your end. Man, I just seen that and I was like, man, can you imagine if I was sitting there talking for 24 minutes and nobody can hear me? All right. He scared me for a second. Let's see. Um Justin says, I wish Clove could be more moved like GME on no volume. We absolutely can. We just need some buying pressure. Um, you know, in terms of GameStop, when we saw those big movements come in that I was just showing, those were all like on big days where we had these huge failure to delivers, come in and just had to be returned, and we'll get there. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of shady stuff happening in dark pools and probably naked short selling and things of that nature. But I think we'll get there. It's just a matter of time. And with earnings right around the corner too, and also just all the potential growth catalysts that we have for this stock. I think just any sort of buying pressure is going to come in, and on this low volume will get us to those moves. Um, Let's see here. Co-creator says, look at the 5-minute candles on Clove from 9 a.m. till now. So we got from where we at? Oh, you're just talking about all this kind of up and down stuff. I mean, even if you look down lower, like this big wick here is definitely bullish. I mean, it dropped down to 802 and got pushed back up. But, it's always hard to kind of read these things in pre-market too, because you're talking about damn near no volume. I mean, even this candle right here where we saw this push down was only 10,000 in volume. And a lot of these candles over here, we're looking at 2,000, 1,800. I mean, that's nothing in compared to the type of volume we normally see. Looks like AMC just dropped quite a bit, hitting down right back down below 40. Anyone who was paying attention to AMC yesterday kind of looked like a battle for $40 for a while. It kept kind of going back and forth. Where we at? Oh, this chart seems. Oh, there we go. All right, yeah. So it kind of was in this battle for $40 all day. Finally broke through the mark. Damn, my computer is tripping right now. Finally broke through the mark somewhere. What are we at? Right around here at right before power hour, and held it throughout the day, and then just got hammered down this morning. So, but again, that's 32 cents. Not too much. Lisa says, any thoughts about Google in relation to earnings coming out split? I'm not sure at all. I haven't really been up on it. If you're talking about Google, I don't know much. I haven't really been looking into it much. Um, Jason wants me to Ortex CRTD. Yeah, I'll do that right now. And then Pablo's pointing out too that low pre-market volume. So yeah, but yeah, Jason, I'll do that because I was just gonna pull up CLOV's Ortex data as well. So I'll show you CRTD as well. So right now with Ortex, we're looking at this is CLOV coming into today, 39 million shares on loan. But the short interest is at 21%. Cost to borrow still low. Looks like today we are seeing more shares borrowed with an increase in short interest. This changes throughout the day. So let me raise that up. This changes throughout the day though, right? So it'll update live as more shares get covered, or more shares get returned, borrowed. We'll start to see these numbers kind of fluctuate throughout the day. iBorrow desk is showing. And again, this is Clove. What are we looking at? 800,000. So it looks like we could expect a little bit of a hit this morning. In regards to shares being borrowed, it could be that these shares have already been shorted in pre-market. But we haven't seen enough volume to really show that all of them have been used. Let me get this Ortex data up for you real quick. CRTD, and then I'll try to catch up with the chat before we CRTD. All right. Here we go. So this is CRTD. Looks like 16% short interest and a decrease in short interest as of today. I hope that answers your question. All right. So, and sometimes just to get back to that, Jason, sometimes Market Watch is running off old data, right? I mean, they're not doing like the daily updates like a Ortex is. So, you're not going to see you're going to see stuff that's only getting reported every like 15 days. Kamal, what's up? Good morning. DJ's in the house. What's up? Oh, thought I put that up there. And Dave's in the house. Dave says he thinks the low volume sign of a big move. All right, let's see. Max says, "Do you think the option chain volume could be coming from shorts trying to hedge their short positions?" That's one of my theories. I've said that in the past, and I mean, um, I know like we talked about this. This was probably over a month ago. Me and Tar Heel talked about this, and I know we didn't necessarily agree on that part of it. But I mean, shit, if I was a short and I was, in over my head, especially like underreporting maybe what my true position is, um, yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you, right? I mean, if you know you're gonna have to cover and you feel like the end is near, obviously not the short term options, but when you see someone go in and buy, like those, we saw that unusual contract of like $5 strike for January or something like that. Now, when you end up covering and the stock price goes up, you could make money on the other way, and that's essentially what a hedge fund is, right? That's like the definition of hedging is, if I'm long a stock and I think that it could experience a downward momentum, I'll buy puts to offset that risk, even though my true position is long shares, and the opposite if I'm short. So I think so for sure, but I mean that still provides firepower, and I think I said this again like months ago that we're getting some nice movement right now too with some volume behind it. What's the volume at right there? We're 2 minutes in and we're almost at a million in volume. So yeah, could be kind of exciting. Um, but yeah, no, I absolutely think that could be the case. And I'm gonna probably I'm way behind on the chat, guys. So I'm gonna try to skip over some of this stuff. Sorry. Um and I'll star some that I want to come back to because I'm way behind. Um let's see here. Good morning, Fluffer, Gingivitis. I see you in here. SRT's in the house. And I'm starring some of these so I can come back to them, but I just want to catch up because I know I'm hella behind. Um, all right, here we go. So just looking around, DraftKings seems to be going down 1% right now. CLOV, we're looking at a pretty decent green candle. Same thing with GameStop, and also AMC. So maybe this could be another big day or good day for the meme stocks. The S&P 500 looks to be kind of coming down right now. Opened the day at 439 and it's at 438. But again, we're only a couple minutes into the market, so always kind of hard to. Oh, is my AMC on a 1 minute time frame? There we go. Uh, Sorry, I like looking at 5 minute. Anyone who's kind of new in here, I usually like to keep the 5 minute up just because you know it's a lot, especially when we're sitting here talking about it and we're not just studying one stock. It allows to kind of really see like the true flow at a slower pace. I'm not day trading any of these stocks, so I'm not really interested in looking at the 1 minute. It looks like AVXL is going up a little bit. BNGO, not much movement from anything though. Not anything too exciting. Uh, just getting all my stuff set up real quick. All right. Franklin says it seems like we perform in line with AMC and GameStop. Yeah, there's definitely days where when AMC takes off, we'll see Clove take off. When GameStop takes off, you'll see AMC take off. When and they all kind of, sometimes they track together for sure. So they don't always. There's times where, we'll diverge from the rest. There's times where, some will take off and others won't. But it does seem like on some given days, we'll see that same movement between all those stocks where they're tracking together. Scotty says we're gonna see another green morning for Coach. I hope so. I never get the green mornings. Um, so SRT says I pulled this up. I know this was a long time ago. Sorry, man. If low pre-market today is a good thing, Maybe it's a sign there's not much going on in pre-market this morning. No, I mean it to me it just, like this low volume, it it's more like, I mean, we've got a lot of retail holders now that came in and bought the stock and are probably somewhat out of dry powder, right? So we're buying, we're holding, and now it's just a matter of getting these these hedge funds or institutions, people that are shorting, to come in and do their force buying, and they're returning shares and that sort of thing. Or it could be new retail pouring in. But if we get any sort of that volume or movement, I think we're going to see some big moves. I know Dave likes to point out sometimes that we'll see this bid ask start widening. And that's definitely a good thing. When we see like maybe a lot of buy orders sitting in here at 810, but we start hammering through this ask, and you start to see this spread widen. That'll happen sometimes when volume dries up, and that's where we could really see some big movement. Um, does borrowing and returning shares get counted in volume anywhere? Yes. So, or no, borrowing and returning doesn't. It's just when they sell it into the market and then they buy it back in the market. But the actual act of borrowing and returning does not. And that's why we're not getting like full short data, because really we're looking at when we look at like Ortex, they're only taking into account some of the brokers that lend out shares. iBorrowDesk is only taking into account one broker that lends out shares. So we don't really know exactly what's being borrowed and returned as a full picture. And that's one of the disadvantages that we have as retail. I think if you have a Bloomberg terminal, you kind of get access to most of that data, or a lot more data than we have. But those things cost like $2,000 a month. Um, Co-creator said that's the longest rejection week or wick I've seen in a long time. Yeah, I mean, so we ran up to 825 and got absolutely pushed back down to what, 808, and it could be that was those shares that we saw borrowed this morning finally getting sold into the market. I mean, we know just looking at Ortex data, from the start, it was what, 2 million shares that were borrowed through Ortex, and another 800,000 borrowed through iBorrowDesk, and up until the opening bell, we didn't have anywhere near that much volume in the pre-market. So my assumption would be that, yeah, a lot of that was the shorts kind of preventing the stock from moving downwards. But let me see here. Quick update on Ortex. We're basically looking at kind of the same amount in data, like 2.5 million borrowed. But there's no way of knowing if those have been sold into the market yet. My assumption would be probably so, most of them. That was almost a million in volume there. Um, I almost banned somebody on accident. Sorry. Let's see here. So Dan, if you're doing Ortex, can you do CLF for me? Yes, I will. All right. So we're looking at, let's see here. 10% short interest of free float, 110 million shares on loan. Cost to borrow extremely low, and utilization kind of low too. And then shares being returned. So not a ton of short interest in that stock, at least from what's being reported. Um, Hope that helps you though. CT says, don't we have like 39,000 members in CLOV? That's like 5 a member per month. Need to set up something. I'm not sure what you're talking about, CT, but if you want to elaborate on it, I'd love to hear the idea. All right, so let's see. What else was I gonna look at this morning? GameStop's now down 1%, Clove's down 2, AMC down 2.5. DraftKings looks like maybe it's going positive. This line here is this trend line that I had drawn in earlier, but also looks like DraftKings is getting a lot of resistance around 50. Just looking around the rest of the market. Let me pull up my other. BlackBerry's kind of another meme stock that sometimes will track with the memes, and it looks like it's also down 1%, along with space. So it looks like everything's kind of hitting that same, right in that same range, at least right off the opening. I mean, we're still. I always talk about this too. It's kind of hard to know what's going on until we get about a half hour in. Um, but it does look like the S&P 500 is trending down right now. So something to keep an eye on. Sometimes when the market goes down. Oh, okay, CT means for a Bloomberg terminal. Thanks CT and Franklin. Yeah, shit, that would be cool. I know there's a member in the subreddit that has one. God, I can't think of. I think Mark Anthony was the name. He was on one of the first roundtables that we did. God, almost 6 weeks ago, I think it's been, and maybe 5 weeks ago. And the next day, he did a screenshot of the Bloomberg terminal. Um, yeah, Dan says he'd be down for a nickel a month too. Yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, one day I'd love to. I mean, here's the thing, like I don't understand, and I don't want to knock any, so I won't say anyone's names, but I mean, there's YouTubers out there not covering Clove, but other stocks, that are still relying on like Ortex data and kind of this BS retail information, like just what we have, and these guys got like a million followers, 30,000 followers, 50,000 followers. Um, Shit, if I ever got to that point and I was making actual like real money off YouTube, shit, I'd absolutely reinvest it in and go buy a Bloomberg terminal. And that way I'd be able to like update people that are watching with real data. But that's why it always kind of shocks me to go see some of these bigger guys that do streaming or putting videos out that don't actually um, utilize that when they're likely making way more than that a month off their channel. So um, I don't know if I ever am lucky enough to kind of get to that point where this is like my job doing this stuff. I'd absolutely put in put in the money to get that. All right, well, hey, since the market's open right now, I want to take the time to look at the option chain. I was tweeting with TSS last night. He had asked about options and kind of all the volume that came in yesterday. And I mentioned that we wouldn't see the update in that until today, right? So it does look like at the $9 strike now, and this is for this week specifically. Um, yeah, I mean 16,000 more at the $9 strike, then calls them puts, and 20,000 more calls them puts at the $10 strike. So seems like, and in the 11 yesterday, I know this number was 9, so almost 12,000 more at 11, and 12,000 more at 12. So, I mean, a lot of gamma ramp there if we were able to get the stock moving. It's only Tuesday. Absolutely could happen. But we've seen this set up almost every week now for the past month where, people going in and playing these weeklies are loading up the chain, and it gives us the potential for some nice movement. But we haven't seen that, since June 8th. I'm going to update this TRADYTICS now, too. So this now should be. Let me get us back to the. And it does look like we're getting pushed down to that $8 mark. I would imagine we're going to see some support and push up like we just saw. I mean, this is not the first time that they've pushed us below 8 on a 5-minute candle, and we've seen these wicks getting us right back up above 8. So it seems like we got some support there, and if we're able to hold this candle again and reverse here, um, that would really tell me now. I mean, we're looking at what, 5 days out of the last 10 that maybe we've touched below 8 and pushed right back up. So that really makes me feel like $8. This $8 is kind of our new base. But looking at TRADYTICS now, and this is, see, it looks like that's still yesterday's data there. Let me see if it tells us when this updated. Oh. Yeah, this is still yesterday's data. So I wanted to see if we saw any significant differences here in the chain, but it doesn't look like these numbers all look the same as what we saw in pre-market. So we'll come back to that and check it out a little bit later. Let's see here. CT, you're a genius. So I don't know if I have access to it, but I am absolutely going to look into that soon because I don't know how many of you guys know this, but I'm actually in the process of getting my PhD right now, and it's not in finance, so I don't know if I would have access to it, but I'm gonna find out if my university has it, and if they do, if I can get access to it at least for the next 6 months while I'm writing my dissertation, that would be awesome. Let's see. Trying to catch up here. Yeah, SRT, you're right. I haven't seen Doc Tampa on. I know. I want to say he was in the chat on the round table the other night. I think I saw him in there, but yeah, I haven't seen him in here on the stream in a while. I read something about an options wall. Could or does any of this look or appear like an options wall? I do not understand what that is. So, um, an options wall is kind of like when you see a certain amount of puts stacked up at the same time with the calls, like where they could pin it in. Almost like, think about the same thing as when we talk about Max Payne. But we're basically, we would be looking at the same type of thing with kind of complex option strategies where we'd see a bunch of puts kind of stacked up in a certain area. I did notice the other day a ton of puts coming in at the $30 strike, which could be specific, which is kind of weird to buy puts, that far in the money. And I want to say they were at August 20th. Let's see. Maybe not. Here, I'll pull it up right now. I'll go back on that TRADYTICS and see where most of that stuff is coming through. But yeah, I did notice a ton of puts that came in at like the $30 strike, but I still don't think it was enough to really outweigh the calls that were in there. Bud says, "What is your subject for your PhD dissertation?" So, without giving away like the full topic because I'm still writing it, but basically, my master's degree and is in sports and basically in education, and but with an emphasis on sports and sports management. And so my PhD is kind of in line with the same thing, but it has to do with basically NCAA recruiting of college athletes or of high school athletes, specifically in football, which is the sport that I coach. So that's basically what my PhD topic or the dissertation topic is. But my actual doctorate degree is going to be a doctorate in education. Soft bunnies, good morning. SRT says moon landings. Yeah. How does Tesla drop after that ER? Man, I mean that just it's playing earnings is really scary. I mean it doesn't always happen the way that you think it would. And again, I know I don't know if you were in here earlier, but I was gonna just more so to answer this question. And I've seen this happen so many times where a stock will like run up into earnings and then you get these great earnings and the stock tanks. And it's kind of like that buy the rumor sell the news type of thing. It doesn't make a ton of sense, but I've seen it just happen so many times. Like even if you look back at, let's see here, I'll pull up this DraftKings because this is something that I was looking into this morning before the stream happened. But this was, I mean, DraftKings hasn't been around that long, but quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four was by far the best earnings that DraftKings had, revenue wise, 322 million compared to what, 100 million. I think the one before, which was double of the one before that. So it went from 70 in revenue to 130 to 300 million, ran up, but then right after earnings crashed down, after tripling their revenue. So it's just kind of one of those things where it's either, people projecting out for the future, like, okay, so they just crushed it on ER and then now they're going to be in a sell-off type mode, which is kind of what I expected probably happened here with DraftKings, knowing that football season was over and they would decline in revenue, which is exactly what ended up happening as well. So yeah, I think it's just kind of like one of those buy the rumor, sell the news, and I got hit pretty hard like that with Rocket too, RKT, where the stock had great earnings and then got slammed down afterwards. But it also works in the opposite direction too. Like when you're working with a stock that's grossly oversold and earnings beat estimates, then you should see upward momentum, right? Which is kind of um, what I'm expecting to see out of Clove. Clove's an oversold stock, an undervalued stock. So if all of a sudden they beat estimates on their report coming up, you'll see institutional investors piling in. I think Tesla's more of the opposite. Tesla is trading more on speculation and optimism on what the company can do in the future. So even if they beat expectations, they're still not earning up to what they're trading at. That's my take, at least. Badass Dad's Cast says I'm naming today's clove chart John Wick. What's the deal with these candles? Yeah, a lot of lot of movement going up, and sometimes again, I don't normally keep the 1 minutes up, but it's just the movement that's happening in between, right? So if you look at it on a 5 minute scale, three green candles, two red, and so you're going to get that long wick. One green, four red, and so you're going to end up getting a wick coming up from the upward top. So that's basically what's happening inside of these 5 minute candles. Is just a lot of indecision right now in the market, in this stock. Do I know what the earnings expectations are? Um, Yeah, I could maybe try to look into that. I know I have with my Charles Schwab app, they kind of give you some what analyst expectations, like what the street expectations are. So yeah, let me star that comment and I'll try to get back to that in a second. Um, yeah, Chef Daddy. So typically the best way to play earnings, in my opinion, and I know this is kind of like more long sighted, is to really get like 3 months ahead of the game. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do here with the DraftKings play. Is And again, I'm going to be dropping a video on this a little bit later, but going back to their Q4 earnings, which killed it last time, and I think it was specifically due to like the sports gambling and football season, because their quarter four in February encompasses all of football season, and you could see that they increased revenue every single time leading up to and during football season. So in order to get a play on quarter four, I'm entering into this trade in quarter two. And that way you can kind of price in these run ups, but then you want to sell before earnings. Is kind of the way I've been more successful playing off earnings, is getting into something ahead of time with the expectations of positive earnings, maybe 2 quarters out. And now, as it continues to rise up, you really want to exit that trade way before the earnings is released and get out of any options you're in or anything like that, because earnings are always a little funky. And usually, when you hear people talk about like the smart money and dumb money, um, and that's why it doesn't make sense to me. But just, I guess the smart money is going to sell the news, right? So they're going to come in, and it's like, I think Tesla was probably going to dump after earnings regardless. It's just a matter of how much they were going to dump, right? So if you and I haven't even looked to see what happened with Tesla with earnings, but we could take a look right now. I'm just going off of your comment, but are they down today? They're only down 1%. Um, but even here, you look right after this earnings, and then the stock sold off afterwards. Right after this earnings, and the stock sold off afterwards. And sometimes when you see these big gains leading into an earnings, it's like, if the earnings were great, maybe it sells off a little. If the earnings were terrible, maybe it sells off a lot. And a lot of times, but the one thing I'll say about Tesla, just looking at this, it is kind of trending with this moving average right here and kind of holding the line there. So I mean, I haven't really looked into Tesla in a long time. I did trade Tesla, back in this area on these run ups. This was what, 2 years ago or so. But it's so pricey now to sit there and try to trade on it and play options on it, because the higher the share price, the higher it's gonna cost you per contract. So I try to look for the next Teslas. We are below 8 right now. I would really like to see us get pushed back above $8 in the next 2 minutes if possible, just because I don't think we've actually closed a candle below 8 in a long time now. And we've been seeing this support, but again, this could be, you know, obviously, if you're a short seller and you want to crush somebody's will, you definitely want to. This is when you'd want to attack. So if you're sitting here with an extra million shares that you haven't shorted into the market yet, that you borrowed this morning, if I was trying to drive this stock lower, I'd be hitting it with it now. Let's get it under that support level of 8 and hammer the shit out of it and make some people sell. That's what they want. And then when it drops down lower, when we sell, now they're going to cover it back up, and they've got more firepower. Let's see here. Sorry, keep getting behind on you guys. Dan says in January there's a 250 call for 535. Am I wrong, or is this essentially being able to buy 100 shares at 785? Seems like a deal. That is a great point, and that absolutely would make sense. So, am I looking at all strikes? I'm seeing January $3, $4, $5. I don't see a 250 call. Are you maybe looking at 2023? No. I don't see that one. I see the $3 strike going for 540. So basically, you're able to get the stock at 840. So you're still paying a little bit more than what we're looking at here. But yeah, if you ever found some sort of deal like that, yeah, that means you basically would be getting it at a discounted rate, for sure. Because that's exactly the way it works, though. So if it was a 250 strike going for 535, then you'd be getting in at 785. Um, but I didn't see any 250 strikes in there. Yeah, we're also Pablo points out, and I know I'm behind here, that we were oversold on the RSI. We dipped down below 30 to 2284, and we're just popping back up enough. This could be a nice little. We just really we want to be trading above VWAP. You know, let's see, where did we close this at? 797. So we did close below 8. But we're right back above it. So you want to put the all we got to do is just change this to a 10-minute chart. Ah, we still close below it. All right, whatever. I tried. Um, Co-creator says buy more. It's a fire sale. Um, I think we're gonna trade sideways between 7 and 850 until earnings. Yeah, I could see that too. I definitely could see us kind of, but I would expect us to kind of lead up, like leading up to earnings, probably start seeing us rise a little bit, right? So I think earnings are on August 11th. Let me get Tesla off here real quick. Basically right around here. I could see us slowly start creeping up because, anyone who, institutional investors that may want to come into this stock, or bigger players that may want to come into this stock and are expecting good earnings that's going to turn around, maybe some analysts projections for this and everything else would start buying in around here. I mean, we did see insider buying too recently. So that, which to me is a bullish signal, right? I forget who it was, but someone on the board came in and bought some shares. Those weren't shares given to her; they were she came in and bought them. So, and she knows more about the company than we do. So, I think we might continue to see not necessarily even insider buying, but maybe some institutional buying coming in here as we lead up to this 811, and maybe kind of get us right up to like this $9 or $10 mark leading into earnings. That's my expectation. But you could be 100% right too, co-creator. We could just kind of trade sideways and continue to see this suppression of the option chain at the same time. Um, Pablo says we keep bouncing off the 30 RSI. Yeah, I could make this a little bit bigger too, just so we could see it. I think. And are you talking like on a 1 minute? We're definitely trading in this oversold territory right now. Damn, now how do I get this smaller? There we go. All right. Just looking around real quick. So CLOV down 3% right now, 26 cents, trading at 7.95. GameStop down almost $3, down 1.5%, and AMC down 4%, trading at 38.61. Which does kind of seem in line with the rest of the market too. I mean, the S&P 500 is down almost $1.70. Um, DraftKings is down. AVXL, BNGO, those are just ones that I have on my watch list. Coming over here to my other ones. BlackBerry also down. Man, it looks like everything that I have on a watch list here. I even have Neuro on a watch list because some of you guys were trading that last week. But yeah, it looks like everything's kind of trending downward. Space is down 3.5%. So it just might be one of those mornings. And I say mornings because we've seen so many times before where the S&P 500 starts the day off like this. Where we at? Kind of coming down, gapping down off yesterday and everything, and then right when Coach B's ready to sign off, everything starts going green and rolling upwards, and then we start to see that bounce back. So, uh, who knows? Doesn't necessarily mean this is going to be a red day. It could just be a red morning, but it does seem like we're really trading with the S&P 500 right now, or the markets in general, I should say, not necessarily the S&P. It seems like everything's trending downwards at this moment. There goes loading up, buying those dips. Um, oh, December. Okay, let me check that out again. There we go. So, yes, to answer your question, the 250 strike plus, or no, plus, so don't really pay attention to the bid. It's more the ask is what you're going to be paying, right? So you're going to be paying this 570. So basically 250 plus 570 gives you an 820. If you were going to sell a 250 call, you would probably get about 535. Typically, when you're looking at the options chain, though, you always want to go right in the middle, is what you probably would want to pay, unless you're really just trying to make sure you get in. Let's say a stock is moving upwards and you don't want to miss out on it, then you can come in and just buy the ask. But usually what I'll do is put a bid in here, to kind of split the difference. So you know right now there's a difference of 30 cents, so let's say 15 cents higher than that, and I would put in a bid for like 555 and wait to get filled. The problem with that is, when you get this deep into the option chain, there's not a lot of room for like price improvement, because of the exact same thing that you pointed out. Like 250 plus 570 prices this at 820, which means the owner of this contract is basically willing to sell their 100 shares for what, 27-cent difference than what the stock is trading at right now. So they're getting rid of they're basically gaining 27 cents on what the stock's trading at. And that's that you're losing a lot of the extrinsic value as an option seller. As a buyer, this gives you the opportunity to get in and buy a stock at even though you're paying 20 cents or 27 cents more than what it's trading at right now, it allows you to control 100 shares for cheaper than what the stock is trading at. Typically, if I was going to go in the money on something, I would go maybe with like a 70 to 80 delta, only because you lose all intrinsic value or extrinsic value here when you get into a 90 delta. And that's kind of what I was saying. Like, you're basically paying 27 cents premium. And at that point, if you were going to spend $570, why not just spend 790 and buy the 100 shares, which don't expire? But now if you were to go at $6, for what, $315, you can control 100 shares. So now if you look at, for $630, you can control 200. Now that would make it more worth my while, and I would expect this stock to be trading well above 6 or 915 at expiration. So anyways, that's my take on that. Has short interest increased on CLOV on Ortex? So yes, absolutely it has. This is intraday now. We're seeing a lot of borrowing coming in. 3.2 million now. So only 400,000 shares returned, with 3.6 million borrowed, 8% short interest. That's an interesting theory, co-creator, and I probably agree with you too. Like, he says, I think hedge funds are getting all the ammo they need to suppress the price from certain institutions that are trying to push retail out and buy as much as they can before they let it go up. Yeah, you see that a lot of times with different stocks. Like, I mean, we even saw that recently with Motley Fool, where they've been hammering this stock for almost 2 months, it seems like, with negative articles about it. Buy this stock instead, do this, do that. And then once the stock kind of leveled out around $8, they put out an article the other day saying they thought it was a great buy. So a lot of times you'll see that with institutions too, where I mean, they'll try to manipulate a stock down just so that they can get in a good long-term entry point. Um, and that wouldn't surprise me at all. Somebody, you know what? I don't want to forget about this too. I got some questions on Reddit from SMJ, so I'm gonna maybe see if I can address some of those. But that was also one of them. Was about the cost to borrow and why would institutions that own a stock make the price so cheap to lend the stock out. And that could be one reason right there, right? So if I'm in this stock for the long haul, let's say I bought in my current price is I bought it. I'm a big institution. I own hundreds of thousands, if not millions of shares. Um, and I want to average down. And let's say my average price right now is $9, but I want to get a lower share price. Yeah, I could lend those shares out to short sellers, and they're paying me a borrow fee of, let's say, 1%. So now that's going to lower my cost average by 1% too. But plus, if they're able to kind of like drop the stock down for me, and I'm in this for the long haul, I think I'm not going to even consider selling my CLOV shares till we get into triple digits. Let's just say this is all hypothetical. Shit, they could do me a favor and drop the price down, and I can come in and just keep buying. Maybe my price target to average down my price is like at $7.50 or $8, and so shit, I'll lend you. And a lot of times too. Again, this is all speculation. If I'm long on the stock, I don't care what you're gonna do to try to drive the price down. I'm holding this thing until it gets to, like I said, triple digits. They might be lending those shares out. Now they can collect premiums from the short sellers in the meantime, and they don't care about the short term gains, but drive the price down, and then the institutions will just keep loading up and lowering their cost average. So that could be one of the reasons. And SMJ, I hope that maybe answers. That's kind of what I was thinking about in regards to the short or why institutions lend those out. A lot of institutions that come in and buy stocks are in for the long haul, and they're not looking for the quick 10%, 20% gains. They're looking for the long term, like holding on to stocks for 10 years and that sort of things. And a lot of times if these institutions could just make, anywhere from 5 to 10% in a stock on a year, maybe 20%, they'll be perfectly fine. They don't care about the day to day, month to month. So one way they do that is by, selling options contracts and collecting premiums, and also through lending the actual physical shares out to short sellers. And that's an easy way for them to gain 2%, 3%. And that fluctuates too, right? So as utilization goes up and the stock becomes more in demand, that's when you see that cost to borrow go up. And that's when, again, institutions that are lending shares can really make some money. Let's see. Yeah, you know what, Josh? I'm gonna pull that up right now because I know you asked earlier, and I started and I forgot to go back to it. So I'm gonna try to pull that up on my Schwab app real quick. Um, See if I can get it up. What they have extra estimated earnings at, and I know there's a bunch of other places you could pull it up at, but let me see if I can grab it real quick. I'm just logging into it right now. Um, Co-creator says Ortex is getting bad data. Yeah, I tend to agree with that too. I mean, it's really hard to trust this data when the way that the markets are set up. Everything's self-reported. And then Ortex doesn't even have, um, you know, they don't even have 100% of the data needed to really paint the full picture for us. And while some people say Ortex is compromised, and it very well could be, I like to think that when they're charging their customers anywhere from $40 to $50 a month, it's in their best interest to kind of like report the actual data that's being given to them. But at the same time, they're at the mercy of whatever data is being given to them. And that's kind of the shitty thing about the market, right? Transparency. So I'm just trying to pull up this earnings right now. It looks like quarter one was, and I'm just looking at this right now. Estimate or actually came in at 200 million in revenue, and estimates right now is 205. Um, Cash flow for they don't even have. That's all I'm showing on here right now is basically in terms of estimates. And now I know there's different analysts that give different estimates, but the only this is a lot different than some of the other earnings projections I've seen for other stocks. Like the only thing that they're showing on here is revenue, and they're expecting revenue to increase by about $5 million. So not a lot there, at least not from my Schwab app. Sorry about that, Josh. Um, Louis says J Powell speaks tomorrow, right? I think is it tomorrow or Friday? I think it is tomorrow. And yeah, and we've seen these knee jerk reactions from the market too, right? I mean, every time J Powell speaks, all of a sudden you'll see like a knee jerk pullback, and then all of a sudden you'll see green the next day. And I think it's a lot of just psychological games too, right? Kind of exactly what co-creator was just talking about, where institutions that want to load up on even more long shares will gladly see the price drop so that they can continue to buy up. Um, Sometimes even influence the price to drop. And you'll see rug pulls like that happen a lot, especially in the broader market. They'll use a situation like, the Fed giving a speech, and all of a sudden yank a bunch of shares out of the market, which causes a knee jerk reaction of other retail investors to dump their shares in different stocks. And now institutions could come back in and scoop up not only what they sold earlier, but new shares for cheaper. And that's also a lot of times getting back to earnings calls, what you'll see. Even when you see like fantastic, amazing earnings calls on a stock that's maybe trading right around true range or a little bit above, institutions and bigger players will come in and sell immediately to kind of create a panic and get retail to like freak out and dump their shares. And then within the next 15 minutes to 15 days, you'll see everything get bought back up and more so. And that's just a way of the bigger players to come in and scaring, again, that dumb money kind of phrase, scaring them out of the stock, and scooping up shares for cheaper. Um, that's why I think it's always important to kind of have conviction in your investment too, right? Now that's obviously a little bit different with more of the gambling side or the riskier like swing trading side. I mean, I swing trade in stocks all the time that I have no idea fundamentally what they're about. It's more just based off technical analysis, um, or off the options chain. More so with gambling, off the option chain, where I'll just put in like more so bets. But when you're investing in something like I consider Clover an investment, um, yeah, you just can't. You got to have conviction in what you're into. Do your own research. Know that this stock is worth way more than it's trading at right now. And it's like, if we see some sort of rug pull right after earnings or anything like that, or shorts coming in and hammering the stock down, I don't care. I'm not selling because I know what it's worth. If anything, I'll take it as an opportunity to buy more. Sorry, I'm way behind on the chat too. Yeah, Michael says the SPY is down. The SPY right now is, yep, down almost $2.60 now. Looks like it's heading green, and we're starting to see that with everything. Like if you look at DraftKings right here, hit its bottom within the last 5 minutes. CLOV hit its bottom within the last 5 minutes. Could be that we're all still trending downwards. GameStop hit its bottom. AMC hit its bottom. Or it could be that the market is ready to kind of turn around for the day. If we look at the SPY, same thing. Hit its low within the last 5 minutes. And this is where like I said, yeah, the day's starting off red, but if all of a sudden we see the SPY break through VWAP and start trading upwards, we could end up seeing this being a green day for the market and a green day for these stocks as well. And again, this isn't just a meme stock thing. This is the entire market's doing this right now. Let me see. DJ, you're right. He says, give us a 5 minute warning when you're about to sign off and we'll get ready to load up. So, anyone who's new in here, um, I'm basically every day right before I sign off, that's when Clove turns around and starts going green. So, yeah, maybe I'll even sign off early so you guys can really we can control the bottom here. But nah, it's just my luck. It just seems like Clove really starts to move around 8 o'clock. Not every day, but on a lot of these days, right around 8 o'clock. And I know some of you guys on the West Coast, so 11 o'clock is when it really starts to move, which is a lot different than most stocks will get their movement early in the morning in that first hour. Let's see here. Clear channel between 790 and 802 on a 1 minute. Yeah, there's that like 788, 790 level, and there's kind of like that. I would even say maybe even tighter, but I guess yeah, you could even incorporate up to here up to like $8. But yeah, it does seem like we're kind of like locked in here right now. If we want to do, let's see here. I'm learning how to draw lines on Weeble still. So there we go. Oh. But I've been playing around with it. So co-creator, you give me another week and I'll probably be ready to start drawing more lines for you. I'm just years of using Thinkorswim and then getting in here and using Weeble. It's just a little bit different for me, but I'm getting there. But yeah, it does seem like we're kind of trading in this channel right here. I mean, you could even kind of go up a little bit to say, at this 803 mark. But somewhere in here, I think if we break back above 8, we can get back in there and start trading higher. We also need to get above VWAP, which right now is kind of in that same level. Let me get these back off the screen. Um, VWAP's now dropped down to $8, so that's kind of going to be that point too, where if we break above there, I think we'll start seeing some positive movement on the day. And I mean, in the grand scheme of things, we're down 28 cents, not much. Volume on the day right now, 5.4 million, and we've been seeing. Maybe it's starting to taper off from like the earlier. We had almost a million on that first 5 minute candle, and then almost a million here, right at 7 o'clock. But looks like 3.3 million shares borrowed today, and as of right now on Ortex, and a short interest change at 8%. What is your opinion on Cathie Wood? Oh, you know, I actually like a lot of the investments that she gets into. Um, she TTD. I don't even know what she's into now, but like the trade desk has been something that I've been into for a long time as a long term investment. Um, and I noticed that like that was something that she was into like about 6 months ago when I was kind of like following what she was getting in and out of. And she definitely has the I think the potential to pick like good long term winners and hyper growth plays. But I also feel like somewhat of what we were talking about yesterday when Tar Heel was on here. I think it was yesterday. Could have been at the round table, but I really feel like the same way that SPACs get attacked, the same way that Chamath gets attacked, I feel like it's almost the same thing with Cathie Wood, where, that old money Wall Street doesn't like new players coming in that aren't part of the club. And so a lot of times, they'll attack stuff that she's in, and even the media will attack her sometimes. So I don't know. I like Kathy Wood though. I really do. Um, do you think hedge funds eventually can cover all those shorts via dark pool and doesn't drive the price up? That would be irritating. You know what? I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I'm just going to be 100% honest with you. I have no idea. Um, I mean, at some point, you would imagine. The other thing that happened about the dark pool too is, right, there has to be a a seller in the dark pool. So if you have a buyer in the dark pool, there's got to be someone selling in the dark pool. Or what happens is you got a market maker who will basically create synthetic shares and sell them to someone who needs to cover, which market makers can legally do to create liquidity, which is total bullshit, especially in a dark pool. But so even if they did, right, they still would have to. My understanding is if they created like phantom shares to allow someone to buy on the dark pool, they would still have to come in and eventually buy those on the market if it wasn't a real transaction. So market makers, my understanding is, are allowed to basically create phantom shares, naked shorting, or naked shares, um, to create liquidity, but they have to close out those naked positions before the day's up. So even if that was to happen, because like I said, you would have to have a seller on the other end, and if there's no seller, and they're allowing them to cover on the dark pool, sure, they can allow them to cover, but now it's putting the market maker on the hook, right? Because eventually he needs to come into the market and buy those shares up. They could do that with like algorithmic trading, basically, where they try to buy and sell right here at VWAP and get in for as cheap as they can. But I mean, at some point, when you're talking about millions of shares, I think we would still see an increase in price. I really do. I think we would see it may be a way for shorts to get out a little bit easier, but I think we're still going to see the price drive up because of the sheer number of shares. I mean, even just what's being reported right now is 37 or 39 million shares on loan. So almost 40 million shares on loan. So that would mean that if all shorting ceased, and it was just, there's no shorting going on in this stock right now, and it's just buying and pure selling, by retail or institutions or whatever. 40 million shares worth of buying coming into this stock, I think would absolutely, especially with the type of volume we're at, would make this price go up. CT says, did you end up buying some SOS yesterday? Yeah, I got in. Let me pull this up. So I did. I went with some long term calls, just to kind of, and I know it's down today. I wonder, what am I at right now? I'm down 10% on the play, which is kind of where they're at. But yeah, so like right around, I want to say, I think I bought it like right below VWAP, like right when I saw that it was kind of trending upwards here. I ended up jumping in, but I went long term with options. Kind of a bad choice by me, and I only say that because like if I would have went with more like short term, closer to the money, this would have been a huge gainer on the day. Riding this up and just selling like as more of a day trade. But I went long term, so the options weren't too expensive, and basically, I'm just looking for this to maybe. And I'm not recommending anybody buy SOS right now at all. This was like a pure just kind of gamble play, but maybe if we can kind of continue this growth right here, and eventually even get up, even if they don't test these all-time highs, I guess what I'm looking at there is more, go on a nice little run. If Bitcoin or crypto kind of comes back into play and starts rallying back, I know that I think Bitcoin hit as high as like 40,000 yesterday, but I think it started selling off after that. But SOS, kind of tracks that same like the crypto market. So trading downwards at $2, I felt like it's a good entry point to, if all of a sudden things start rallying, and even if it's 3-4 months from now, Maybe SOS will bounce back to like $10. I think its all-time high was what, 16. So almost room to 8 times that if it does get up there. Those are the type of bets I like to make. And again, these are just straight up bets where uh, probably not going to happen. But I think the options I bought were for January 21st. So that's basically giving me about 5 months for, and I think I got into them for about what, 17 cents a piece, so $17 a contract. Very risk free bet in my, not risk free, but I guess I'm not risking a lot is what I meant to say. And if it turns around, shit, could make a ton. If it doesn't, I threw away $17 times 5. So what did I throw in there? $88. Yeah, not bad. Um, All right, I know I'm way behind, but yeah, Pablo, they sell covered calls. I know you're talking about the institutions. Um, says as long as Clove's earnings are in the right direction, I don't care what the price is. Yeah, and I know you guys are. I want to know when we're gonna hit green, so I'm gonna end at 8 o'clock. I'll end at 8 on the dot, so everybody go in and load up. Actually, I can't say that. I think that's market manipulation, but you guys know what to do. It's gonna go green at 8 when I sign off. Uh, oh man. Uh, Says I'm just a broke disabled hillbilly from Ohio living as best I can in Colorado. You know what, co-creator? At some point, I'm gonna come visit you in Colorado, man. So I meant to say that the other day. I was so being a coach and coaching for what, probably the last 15, 20 years, but the school that I coach at has been really successful in getting kids out and recruit and into the Pac-12 specifically. So right now, I think we have like 8 or 9 active players playing in the Pac-12. Um, and so, kind of one thing that I'm going to start doing, I wanted to do it last year, but with COVID, it didn't work out, is start traveling around at least once a year and catching like a Pac-12 game in a new stadium and checking out some of my former players. At some point, I'll be in Colorado. I'll go check out a game out there. I'll hit you up for sure. Let's see. I'm trying to catch up in the chat. VN's in the house. Yeah, I hope so. I'm kind of stressed out with it too, just with like work starting up, back up, and then just right in the middle of like the meat of this dissertation process. It's like, I spent the last 2 years basically doing research, writing papers, kind of preparing for this, and all the papers and everything I've been writing have been geared towards this dissertation. But now it's like it's game time, right? Basically, within the next 6 months, I got to finish this document that's going to be upwards of like 300 pages, and um, I just don't know when I'm going to find the time, but I'm getting it done, and this honestly, because someone else was saying, well, isn't the stream kind of getting in the way or doing the YouTube in the way? But really, it's not, because it's almost like a stress reliever. It's just a way of kind of like getting away from the schoolwork and doing something different. So I'm really enjoying it. Um, from Coach B to Coach PhD. Let's see here. Uh, Oh, look at SRT pulling. So he said maybe the dip is this morning is forming a head for reverse head and shoulders. Had one a week or two ago and it ran up to 970. Let's see here. You talking day chart or probably 4 hour? Yeah, I can see that. where that would be pretty cool to see that and get the run. And like I said, really at any moment with Clove, all we need is a little bit of extra volume. And I know it's kind of like, well, when are we going to see the volume? When are we going to see the volume? Um, but it'll come. It could be because of earnings. It could be um, because of something as simple as a golden cross, which I know Tar Heel's been pointing out, like the 50 crossing over the 200. We get a couple like Green Days, and all of a sudden we get this crossing point. You're going to see swing traders jumping in. We get a couple Green Days here, and the MACD crosses over. You're going to see other people jumping into this stock. And it could be, I mean, there's a lot of eyes on this stock right now. There definitely is, and people are just waiting for an entry point. And it could just be that somebody writes a a hype article on Wall Street Bets, and all of a sudden we see millions pour in. Anything can happen, but at any point, this stock has the potential to pop. From the short squeeze side of it, right? And then also at the same time, the options data shows that if we're able to get that push and get that volume to get us over those specific strike prices, I mean, I could see just the options chain alone pushing this to like $43. Um, Yeah, co-creator. I like the way you're thinking. It's exactly right. If there was a retail store that had one store for the regular people and one store for special people, one price for us and another price for them, that would be illegal and discrimination. Yeah, and it's got to be fixed. It's just like everything in the and naked shorts should be illegal. Naked shorts are illegal. That the only person that should be able to create any sort of naked shares is a market maker to create liquidity. That's the only time that it's supposed to be able to happen. The problem is a lot of these bigger institutions and funds, they don't trade on platforms like we do, like on a Webull or a Thinkorswim or a Charles Schwab. They have their own access directly into the exchanges, so they're able to, um, think about it this way: they're supposed to go out and locate shares, so they're supposed to go into like an iBorrow desk, or I guess contact Interactive Brokers. Okay, Interactive Brokers has 3 million shares available. Well, so you would call, or 2.9 million. You would call up Interactive Brokers and say, "Hey, I want to borrow 900,000 shares." Right? Now I have 900,000 shares that I know I'm borrowing at a specified price that we worked out. But now I have access to go straight into the exchanges and just sell shares that I don't own, knowing that I'm on the hook from Interactive Brokers to return them to them, right? But what some of these people do is, because no one's monitoring it, and because we don't use like blockchain technology to actually, follow the transactions of every shares and all that, and people have all these different exchanges that they can go through. What happens is, let's say I'm a hedge fund and I want to do that. Yeah, I might call Interactive Brokers and borrow 900,000 shares, but then throughout the course of the day, I maybe sell 5 million shares into the market. And at the same time, maybe I, cover about 2.5 million. But at the end of the day, I sold a net 2.5 million into the market and I only borrowed 900,000. That means that, what, 1.6 million of that were naked, and no one's following that. No one's looking into that. And then to make it even worse, what ends up happening is I get to report my own data back to the SEC, so I can go ahead and just report that I only shorted. I'm only short the stock 900,000. I mean, this is all hypothetical, but that's how it happens, and that's how the naked shares work. And it is illegal. They're not supposed to be able to do that. And then like the dark pools, but it's just the way that the market is structured. I'm sure at one point someone did something for a positive intent, but then it gets taken advantage of and turned into a negative, right? And manipulation happens. Like dark pools were essentially created for large block trades, so that institutions can make purchases or sales without negatively impacting the share price, right? So if I'm if I own the company, or I'm an insider of the company, and maybe I own 2 million shares, but I want to get rid of 200,000 of them, like 10% of my stake, um, for whatever reason, tax purposes, to take profits or whatever. I don't want to tank the share price. I don't want to go in and sell 200,000 shares into the market. So now I can take it to the dark pool and unload those shares at a settled upon share price that's not going to drive the price of the stock into the ground, because I don't want to drive the price of the stock into the ground. I'm long the stock. Well, that's why the dark pool is supposed to be used. And that's not the case, obviously, right? You got people doing it with going in and using it for nefarious reasons. Um, Again, just like everything else, just like when you have and I mean, obviously, I don't have proof of this, but come on, Citadel has is the largest market maker handling all these retail retail transactions, and then Citadel also owns a hedge fund. They're I guess everybody's supposed to be naive enough to think that they don't communicate with one another, even though they're owned by the same person. Okay, so again, the market maker side of them has the ability to short naked legally. The hedge fund side doesn't. The market maker has the ability to control flow in and out of the dark pool. The hedge fund doesn't. But the hedge fund is short CLOV. The hedge fund is short GameStop. The hedge fund is short AMC. But the market maker's not, and we're supposed to believe that the person who owns both companies wouldn't be doing what's in their best interest to make the most amount of money. That's something that's wrong with the market too. Um, like Gut says, stocks are recovering. Yeah, it looks like kind of that point where I called out earlier, and that was just blind. I was just saying, look, it looks like everything hit its bottom. That was around 720. Does kind of seem to be the low, at least for right now. Um, and even looking at the SPY, it does seem like the entire market, and it's not just the memes, are kind of in this same pattern. Hit this bottom at 720, came up to VWAP, hit a higher low at 740. Really, we just like to I would like to see the S&P 500, the SPY, bust through VWAP and see if all of a sudden that starts pulling everything else up with it. So I'm signing off in 18 minutes. Just fair warning for anyone who wants to be a part of this dip, because it's going to rip as soon as I end the stream. Um, there you go. Scotty says, tough start, chin up, we'll get better. I don't know about your school, but mine haven't been in school since all COVID started a year ago in March. Do you think you see a lot of kids out of shape now? Um, yeah, potentially. I mean, I know even like some of my son's friends, like their age, like we did flag football in what the fall, and this is like 9 and 10 year olds, and they seemed like they were out of shape, sitting on the couch too much. I mean, in terms of our football team, we had in California, we had a kind of a weird football season where we started playing football, I think in like February, and ended in April. And a lot of those kids were out of shape. We didn't get to start working out with them till January. Um, but now we haven't stopped. Once that season ended, we started lifting. We started doing, doing a little bit more. And so we've definitely, like, our football program's in shape. But I don't know about the rest of the kids at school. I'm interested to see how that goes. My thesis topic has to do with basically NCAA recruiting, specifically in high school football, and even more specifically in Northern California. But yeah, basically that's kind of revolves around the academic literature on recruiting, which there's not a lot out there. But it's kind of a big topic, right? Because not only do colleges and universities benefit and make money from recruiting the better athletes, but if you look at the flip side of it, which is more where my research is focused, is um, how do these kids gain exposure to be recruited? So that's what I'm kind of looking into. Tough day so far. What's up, Coach? Yeah, nah, you're absolutely right, but it does look like things are starting to move back in the other direction. We're down 28 cents. I think if we bust through VWAP and we get back above 8, we'll probably see a lot of resistance at 8. But if we get back above 8, we could probably see us maybe go green again for the day. That's what I'm hoping for, at least. Oh, there we go. Oh, going back. So I'm behind. But yeah, I'll hit you up for sure when I come out there. I didn't mean to throw your information up on the screen like that too, but I know it's in the chat for anybody. But yeah, I'm gonna hit you up for sure, co-creator, because at some point, I don't know if it'll be this football season or the next, but I'm gonna try to, and we keep loading up with more and more players in the Pac-12. We've been pretty good in recent years. Where I mean, we got players at Washington, USC, Arizona State, Cal. God, where else? And I mean, even more coming out of this class that are getting recruited. We had some other ones. Just I know it's not Pac-12, but just you leave UNLV. Got players at Northern Arizona, Eastern Washington. So kind of like all over the West Coast, really. There's a lot of like former players from my school that are playing right now, and so I want to start doing some trips, like going around and actually once a year, just do like one weekend where maybe if I'm able to go to Colorado and then, maybe at the same time catch one team, let's say USC's playing at Colorado, I can go watch one player, and then Colorado State maybe's playing later on in the day or something like that, and catch them playing Northern Arizona or whatever it may be. But I'm gonna try to start planning like one trip a year like that, and go watch some of my former players. Because obviously I can go see them at like UC Berkeley or Stanford, but I like to travel and get out of the house too. Um, I've read about hedge funds renting market maker ability to write naked shorts by buying married puts, essentially paying a fee with the puts that won't hit, then disguising it buying way out of the money calls. Yeah, so that's definitely illegal. And I think Tar Heel kind of touched on that the other day too. And it's definitely not like I know that there's even been times where, you know, um, but if you they call it, it's kind of like kicking the can down the road, right? And I know this isn't exactly what you're talking about, but if I have to return shares and um instead, let's say I'm on the hook, I borrowed 1 million shares, where hedge funds or whoever's short the stock can go in and buy call contracts and say, oh, look, these call contracts that I have that I'm going to exercise represent the amount of shares that I'm short. So, hey, I covered, and now it's getting reported in that way when they report their short data to the SEC. But that's it. That technically, my understanding is that is illegal, and it's laid out in some of the SEC documents, especially some of the newer stuff that's came out this year. That they're not allowed to do that. That's my understanding of it. And again, I could be wrong at times. I learn from you guys as well. Um, See, look at that. I knew there was something to it. As soon as I mentioned signing off, the turnaround begins. So it's definitely it's moving up. Dan says smash the like button. Absolutely, helps out a lot. Marathon's in the house. Marathon, I saw you on Tar Heel yesterday. That was fun. Um, I forget what the price target specifically was, but I think it was somewhere around like, I think you mentioned anywhere between like $70 on the low end and somewhere upwards of like 500-600. I could be wrong, but I love any of those numbers. Marathon, thank you. I appreciate it. That was fun to watch yesterday. Um, Ego says I'm heading off and we're rising like clockwork. You can't. That's what I said. This is like, I think when we get to like once I announce that last 30 minutes, that's like the dip buying opportunity, and then it's too late. Uh, all right. So before I do sign off, we got like 10 minutes. It does look like as though Everything's turning around. I'm looking at the S&P 500, and the S&P 500 does not look as positive as some of these meme stocks. So, um, we're looking at AMC getting ready to bust through VWAP. CLOV looks like it's going to test VWAP, and so does GameStop. Looking around the rest of the market at some of the other stocks I'm into, BNGO right now is trading at 571. Kind of disappointing there. AVXL trading at $20.24. Both are down around 3% to 4% on the day. What else am I looking at? BlackBerry's one that I've just been watching because it's another meme type stock that sometimes we trend with, and it looks like it's also down 2.5%. Fell below $10. It's at $9.90 right now. That's kind of some of the bigger names. Space is down below 30, down $1.31 on the day, and yeah, but it does look like even Space looks like it's marching back, coming off a low at 28.92. So I'm expecting this day to kind of move I think if we can get through VWAP, get above 8, I would expect to see some resistance at 8. But once we get through there, yeah, let's get green. Tar Heel. All right, so Tar Heel's been on, and he's always brings that afternoon luck. So make sure you guys go on there and join him later on for Power Hour, and I'm sure he'll get the green side of the day. So let's see. What is VWAP? As an econ student, I'm ashamed I have to even ask. So basically, it's more of a technical indicator. And I'm glad you bring that up, because one thing that I'm gonna start doing is making some educational videos. Nothing too long, but I'm gonna start today with some of the technical indicators that we talk about on these streams, and VWAP will be one of them. But just little quick videos to kind of explain what these things are and how to get them up in your trading app. But my plan is to start doing that today after we sign off the stream, and I'll start. I'm gonna put a little educational section up in my video library. But VWAP is volume weighted average price, and it's exactly what it sounds like. So based on the volume, the inflow and outflow of buy orders, sell orders, and how much volume's coming in, it's where the stock should be trading at. So like VWAP earlier started the day at $8.12. We've been seeing a lot of downward pressure. So basically the average price based on the volume that we have is saying that this stock should be trading around $7.97 right now. The reason that I always bring VWAP up is because so many day traders use it, with technical analysis. And so anyone who's trying to scalp the stock right now or get in and out of the stock for like a little day trade, swing trade type thing is going to look to sell, at or below VWAP. If it pushes through and we start trading above volume weighted average price, now we'd be trending in a positive direction, and you'd start to see some buying coming in here as we break through, and we'll start to see support when we get down to VWAP, right? So like that's why I always talk about it, and that's one of the only indicators I kind of keep up on the screen, at least right now, because I'm not trying to day trade the stock, so I can care less about everything else when we're just sitting here talking. But that's what VWAP is. I hope that answered. And like I said, that's something that I'm going to start doing. Basically, I got up early this morning. I've been, wow, that was weird. I think even the stock gods are trying to kick me off right now. Uh, they want me to go so we can go green. They don't like this red bar. But anyways, so I got up early this morning. I can't sleep. I woke up this morning at 3:30, and then I'm just kind of stewing around. I'm already done with my schoolwork for the week. So I started kind of typing out some definitions and technical analysis stuff, and I'm going to start making those videos because I know a lot of these questions keep coming in the stream. What technical indicators do you use? How do you turn these on? And now even that Tar Heel just showed me how to actually get it on Webull. I figured maybe I'll kind of put that out there. So let's see here. Do you think market makers and hedge funds are waiting for Tar Heel Blue to change his carpet from red to green? Ooh, Michael, you might be onto something, man. Uh, I think if if Tar Heel may he might have to. I know he said he knows how to do flooring too. And he's got some flooring experience. That might have to be. I mean, I don't want to ruin the good luck that we have going with the red carpet, but I kind of think maybe Tar Heel should try some green flooring, and then we could use that carpet to actually make the shirts out of. Uh, no, Tar Heel didn't like that. He said. um, Co-creator, I squeeze every day after my coffee kicks in. Maybe Clove just needs coffee. This just in: Clover Health announces coffee program for seniors. Stock explodes. Uh, all right. Uh, Sounds like White Claw withdrawal symptoms. All right. Let's see. All right, guys. So, hey, appreciate everybody coming in. If you're new to the stream, hit the like button, hit subscribe. I feel like I haven't said that in a long time. But really, I try to do this I have been doing this every day, basically at 6 a.m. It's a half hour before the market opens on the West Coast. Um, and I'll continue to do this even through like once I get back to school. Hopefully if everything works out. The main thing I was just talking to Tar Heel about on off the air yesterday, was I really want to see how this goes. It's going to be interesting. So basically, I'm going back to work for 2 weeks, and my kids aren't yet. So that'll be an easy transition where I can get in and go to school. Like finish up the stream and go to school without having to worry about getting the kids ready for school. Then the following week, my kids are going to be going to school too, and that's what's going to be kind of interesting. Is they gotta? I mean, they're 7 and 9, almost 8 and 10, so they should be able to get up, get dressed, get everything going. They usually are, but it's just going to be a matter of making sure that they can do it, so it doesn't become so too stressful for not only me but my wife. Because she's going to be taking them to school. And if it doesn't work for her, it's not going to work. So, and I understand that completely. So my kids are going to have to cooperate with it too. And I'm really hoping that happens because I'm really enjoying doing these streams. But that's going to be the big deciding factor if I'm able to continue with this. Um, but anyways, all right. Thank you again, guys. AMC just busted through VWAP. GameStop is getting through VWAP. Hopefully, they're leading the pack and Clove isn't far behind. Hopefully, as soon as I sign off, um, we'll really start to see some movement. But and again, matter of fact, shit, I just seen this before I get off. The S&P 500 is also looking to get through VWAP, so we are starting to see a nice turnaround, just in time for me to get off for the day. Hopefully, my portfolio does the same, and the same for you guys too. Even if you're in other stocks, I know some of you guys are day trading other stuff, and I think maybe we're seeing a nice little turnaround right now. So have a great day. Make sure you guys go check out Tar Heel. I'm always on there listening. Sometimes I'll jump in the chat, but a lot of times I'm doing other stuff, just listen on my headphones. But go look up Tar Heel Blue and make sure you subscribe to him and check him out for Power Hour. All right, guys. I'll see you later. Have a good day.